Let's move on to vaccinations finally, and I'll wrap up today's session with this. That I think there's still uncertainty regarding what industries will require vaccination. And, if you look at overseas, I think that inevitably what's going to happen is that vaccination will reach a peak. There will be a percentage of the population that will not be wish to be vaccinated. And, they'll have their reasons for that. And basically, I think for employers to assume that they're just going to be able to apply a blanket, everyone has to be vaccinated policy across the board, I think is a mistake. Now, sure, there'll be some businesses that will be required to have vaccinations based on government requirements. And some of those industries at the moment appear to be aged care, quarantine hotels and health. But I think that what we're already seeing is potentially a bit of overreach. We're seeing some businesses and we're seeing some industries look at maybe going further than what government requires them to do. Sure, government's requirements on this might shift, but I would say that to do that with extreme caution, because remembering that people have options in this current market. The unemployment rate is very, very low. So what we may get out of vaccination is more industry migration. We may get employees going from the aged care industry, from health, from certain other aspects of the economy into other industries where they're not subjected to having mandatory vaccination. So I think it's naive to accept that everyone is just going to get on board with this and just going to get vaccinated for the sake of keeping their current employment. People are much more upbeat about their employment opportunities in the marketplace, and they'll probably find other jobs a lot more easier than they would have 15 years ago if the same situation arose. Another interesting thing that I think we may see is I think at some point there's going to be a question about whether there is some sort of medical discrimination laws that are put forward here. And at the moment, I note that some of the protected attributes are things like gender identity, intersex status, sexual orientation. And I think at some point, someone's going to make the argument, well, why should I be discriminated against in a workplace because I've chosen to be vaccinated or not be vaccinated, or obviously the not be vaccinated being the more relevant one in this situation. So it'll be interesting to see whether we do see anything in that regard, whether there will just be massive changes in people's moving around the industry, how some of the unfair dismissal cases will play out in vaccination. There'll be inevitably someone who will be dismissed in an industry because they haven't been vaccinated, and that'll be tested before the Fair Work Commission. I expect that, look, the Fair Work Commission will probably side with the employer on those things, but that doesn't really solve the industry problem of, how's this all going to play out? Is there going to be massive shift in people leaving certain industries? Because there will be people that will resist this. That's just inevitable. And I think everyone has to accept that, whether you're a pro-vaccinator or whether you're an anti. So I don't know how that's all going to be managed. Will there be a transition? There doesn't even seem to be transitions at the moment. I mean, I'm hearing a lot about hard deadlines for you must be vaccinated by this date. I mean, there doesn't even really seem to me to be much consideration for a transition. It seems to be a pretty hard move to this in certain industries. And I think we'll see the industry shifts potentially sooner rather than later. We may see the unfair dismissal cases sooner rather than later. So, and we may see pushes for certain other protections sooner rather than later. So that's all I really want to say on vaccination. I think it's very interesting to watch this space and to see what will happen in the coming months regarding that. So that's where we'll leave it for today. So look, thanks very much for listening. If you've got any COVID-19 related questions or any of the concepts we've spoken about today, please reach out to On-Demand HR. I'll be happy to give you some assistance. Happy to explain to you also how we generally work with customers and clients to work through these types of issues. Thanks very much for your time.